Welcome to the club panel. Before we start, I would just like to quickly recognize a couple things. Firstly, we have been having some internet problems on campus today. Nothing out of the ordinary. However, just in some places, there's been some internet problems both on and off campus. So if anybody cuts out today or is a little choppy, that's why. We'll try to jump in to make sure you have the smoothest experience possible, but that's just something to consider. Secondly, the panel is going to be a little bit different today. Today, we're going to be talking more generally about clubs. All of us are involved in clubs and happy to answer questions on them. But additionally, we're also going to talk a little bit more generally about the student experience in clubs, how we balance our work, study, and club lives, and other questions like that. Anything you guys have to ask, we're happy to answer. Part of this has to do with the fact that Bates College is currently in a quarantine due to an increase in COVID-19 cases. So we've had some scheduling switch arounds and such. So please work with us as we are going through that. If you have any questions about that, we can answer those. However, we will be focusing primarily on clubs today. And if you have any other questions not related to clubs, you can ask them here, but we also encourage you to ask those on the den. But that's enough for announcements. I'll start by introducing myself and then we'll have our panelists introduce ourselves. So hi all, my name is Ronan. I am a junior here at Bates College from Lagunitas, California. At school, I study environmental studies and sociology, so I'm a double major. Outside of my academics, I'm heavily involved in the Bates Outing Club. I'm the president for the club. Additionally, I am a crew captain on Bates's emergency medical services, and I'm heavily involved in the Harvard Center for Community Partnership. And two clubs I am more than happy to talk about today is the Bates Outing Club. And additionally, I would love to talk about the Run Club. I can also talk about Bates EMS. And by the way, my pronouns are he, him, his. Abby, do you want to go?
Yeah, hi guys, I'm Abby. I'm a senior from Portland, Maine, so just 45 minutes away from Bates. I go by she, her, hers. And at Bates, I study sociology. My minor is in education, and my general education concentration is in the knowledge, action, and public good, which is kind of a bunch of classes it's a bunch of humanities classes, social sciences, with a mix of community engaged learning a part of that. Outside Bates, I'm a fellow in admissions. Ronan and I are both doing yield events as well this year, so I'm sure we have seen many of you on panels, so thanks for coming to another one. My two clubs that I'll probably highlight today are the Peer Health Educators. There's 4 different groups that are part of that, which I can get into more, but basically it's like a health and wellness club to promote like healthy living and wellness on campus. And then the second club is Sunshine Society, which I was president of my sophomore year, which is a club to promote random acts of kindness and love on campus. I'll pass it off to Sophie.
Hi everyone, my name is Sophie. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a senior from New York City. I'm an environmental studies major and education minor here at Bates. I have a general education concentration in poverty and equity justice. And the clubs that I'm here to talk about today, primarily the women's ultimate frisbee team on campus called Cold Front. And then also I've been involved in various different environmental clubs. Like I work for the Department of Sustainability as an eco rep and have been involved in the Environmental Coalition. I'm also happy to talk about community engaged work off campus in the Lewiston community through the Harvard Center. And I'll pass it to Nicole.
Hello, can you hear me? Okay. Hi everyone, my name is Nicole Kumbola. I'm a chemistry major with an extensive background in earth sciences and computational studies. On campus, I've been mostly involved in the academic department, so doing summer research. And for today, I'm here to speak mostly on the affinity clubs. So by affinity clubs, I mean the ones that I am part of are the International Club, the Africana Club. There's also, I could also talk about like CSA and CSA, which is the Caribbean Students Union. There's also the Black Students Union. There's also, I'm also part of Bates Christian Fellowship and Bates Gospelers. So for me, my clubs have mostly been linked to my identity, and we'll be glad to speak about that.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. So to start off, we're bringing it back to freshman year. Our first question is, how many clubs did you join in your freshman year? And how many are you still a member of now? Anybody can start us off.
Yeah, so my freshman year, there's something called like the Bates Club Fair, which is one of the craziest experiences I think that I'll always remember. But it's typically, I think in the future it'll be a little bit different because of COVID. But typically it's like in the Gray Cage, which is one of like the gyms, practice gyms at Bates, and it's like every single club is like table to table in that gym. And people, there's loud music, people are screaming, people are like jumping on top of you to like join their club. Super exciting event, and it was really overwhelming. So I think like freshman year I definitely attended or like signed up for like 6 different clubs. I'd say that I'm a part of like 3 or 4 of them, so like doing pretty well in that sense. Some of them I just found that the email chain was a lot, so I got off the email chain, or I just didn't have time for it in my schedule. But one of the things that I think is really unique about Bates is, although like there are different club events and meetings, it's very, some clubs are more serious than others, but I find that a lot of my clubs I can go to like drop by every other week, or like as it works with my schedule. I know like some club sports are a little bit different, but with the clubs that I work in or go to, like it's very you know, like flexible in that sense. So I'd say that, yeah, I joined probably 5 or 6, and I'm still part of 3 or 4. So I'm doing pretty well in that sense. But yeah, that's a little bit about my experience.
Yeah, I can go next. So the club events, I signed up for everything and anything that I saw that I was fascinating. Then I think I didn't even show up for the other ones in my first semester. I then even showed up my second year, and some I was actually not on the mailing list, but I would show up to participate. So for example, every January for the Martin Luther King Day, there's a club called Amandla Club. The Sankofa Club, they put together an event to celebrate Martin Luther King, and I've always participated in as much as I don't necessarily show up for all the meetings. So I think that's something that I've really appreciated within the clubs that I'm part of, that I don't necessarily have to show up, but if there's something happening that I'm excited about, I can attend. And another thing I wanted to emphasize is you don't necessarily, since I'm talking about identity and affinity groups, you don't necessarily have to identify with a certain group to participate in it. So for example, I have friends who've participated in Sangai is a Night, I have friends who have participated in Africana Club, I have friends who have domestic American friends who have cooked for International Club, for example. So you don't necessarily, one thing I want to make it clear also is that Bates, all clubs are open. You can show up whenever you want. You can get involved to whatever capacity that you're able to.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. So we'll move on to our next question here. And this is a bit more of a general question, but what has been your favorite club you've been involved with, and why at Bates? This can be from any of your 4 years.
I'm happy to start off. So I would say that my favorite club I've been involved in is probably Cold Front, the Ultimate Frisbee team, mainly just because that's like what I've spent most of my extracurricular time being involved with, especially as a captain. There's a lot of logistical, like administration work that I have to do, as well as attending practices and team events. But just to give like a little background, when I came to college, I was really looking for like a new sport to pick up, because I did cross country and track in high school and like really loved to be active, but knew that I didn't want to play a varsity sport at Bates. So I like, kind of tried out some different club sport options and just ended up with the Ultimate Frisbee team because I found it to be a really friendly and supportive environment. Most people don't play Frisbee before coming to college. So it's like really nice to be in this environment where like everybody around you, at least like most of the first years and other upper class students who are just joining are all learning the sport together. So it's kind of like a low pressure, low stakes environment. And we also do a lot of fun events outside of Frisbee. Like just to give an example, last night we had a trivia night on Zoom with the men's team as well. So things like that, you know, social fun things are happening all the time, as well as more athletic events.
So I'd say mine is also an athletic club, but it was club volleyball. So in high school, I was like playing sports was a big part of my identity, and I considered playing basketball at Bates, but decided not to. So I was like, how will I sort of keep it active and keep in shape, but also meet new people? So I joined club volleyball, I think my freshman year or my sophomore year. And my two friends were running it at the time, and I had never played volleyball ever. But it was welcome to all like experiences and like ages, like first years through seniors, which all clubs are. But I just really had a blast, and I was decently okay at volleyball. It was really fun. We would have like nights where you'd play games. People actually did travel to other colleges, but just like we turned on the music super loud and played in the Gray Cage again, where that club fair is held. So I'd say that was one of my favorite clubs. And then just like a second, I think, is again Sunshine Society. So basically the club is to promote like kindness and happiness on campus. And so my first year I was really involved in this, and then the senior graduated who was president, so I took it over. And this was just one of my favorite groups because it's like no act of kindness is too small. And I know it's so cheesy, but in college kids' lives, like giving out free cupcakes is like as good as giving out like $50. Like people love small acts of kindness like that. And I think because Bates is such a loving and caring community already, those things are just kind of implemented a little bit already. But yeah, I think those were kind of my two favorites and two of my highlights.
Yeah, I would say, to be honest, I have been all over the place. So I can't necessarily pick one club per se, because what then happens is my friends are also my club mates, are also my mentors, are also because I'm also international. I'm from Zimbabwe. I feel like, yeah. So like when I go to international club, not only am I going for the club, but I'm also going to talk about, for example, the recent talk that has been happening is about the Suez Canal, like the Ever Given, like everybody's talking about it, but like from an international perspective, it's like, wow, let's talk about like the geopolitics and everything. So I think, so my point is that I would say I don't have specifically a club. It's like everything that's happening, that's heated that week is where I am that week. So yeah.
Awesome, thank you. So this can be a question that anybody wants to pick up, a little bit more of a fun one. What would you say is the most unique club, what would you say is the most unique club at Bates? Maybe even how it kind of describes what Bates is like. This can be anybody's question, but I think it's a fun one.
I honestly don't know much about this club, but I know that we have a competitive eating club at Bates. So I'm pretty sure it's like who can eat the most hot dog type of vibe. I think that's kind of sick if you ask me. I think that's pretty cool. I think that kind of shows like who Bates is. Like Bates students don't really like, we're all loving and caring. We all care about each other, but we don't really care. Like everyone's so different and weird in their own way. So when I used to give tours, I used to highlight that often, but also I think that you can't say a lot of other colleges have a competitive eating club. So definitely check that out in the club directory, which you can just look up Bates Club Directory and you can find more information there as well.
I would also just quickly, I know we talk about this quite a bit on the tours, but I just like to highlight it because it sounds like a fun club, the High Altitude Ballooning Club. Essentially, as far as I've heard, they like to launch weather balloons up into the sky with a bunch of gizmos and cameras on it in New Hampshire, and then once they fly it up, it pops in the atmosphere and lands somewhere in Maine, and they essentially spend the entire day searching for that balloon. I think it has a GPS device. It sounds like it's super fun. I'm hoping my senior year I might be able to participate in one of those events because it just seems like a great time. But that's another one of those clubs, which is very unique at Bates. But I think it's also just fun. You know, it shows off that Bates students are willing to, you know, really be their full selves when it comes to the clubs they offer. And fortunately, it is very easy to start a club at Bates. I won't dive into that, but if anybody has questions, we can also answer those. So we've also had some questions regarding LGBTQIA plus inclusivity and additionally clubs on campus. So if anybody would like to speak to Outfront, Spark, anything else relating to that, that would be awesome.
Yeah, so I kind of also sent out the links for the Spark. So we have Spark and Outfront. So Spark is run through the OIE. So it's actually like a recognized through the OIE is the Office of Intercultural Education. So they're actually Spark peer mentors who are there to like support, and they have like Spark dinners, they have like Q Connect dinners, and so in like various events that happen as well. And then the Outfront is the club piece. So I'm about to paste a link in the chat box. So I actually selected the club. So instead of searching the clubs by alphabet, you're also able to search the clubs by category. So there's like academic, there's like sports clubs, there's like affinity clubs. So feel free to check out the link that I'm pasting right now.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to add anything to that question? We also have other questions coming in too, so we can move on to the next one. Thank you, Nicole. Cool. We'll hop on to the next one. What club is the most widely engaged within the student body?
So my initial reaction is the outing club. Ronan might have more to say about that since he is the president of the outing club, but I also think, you know, some of the club teams also play a big role, but I don't actually know. Those are just my two guesses. Ronan, do I do a good job on that guess?
Yeah, I mean, I think what it comes down to is sort of the ways that you want to engage. Bates has a lot of clubs for various niches, and while the Bates Outing Club by the numbers has the most participants in it, I would say it really honestly kind of varies week by week. I think what's super fun is since things are super club focused at Bates, you have clubs running these large events which happen each year. You know, you might have the outing club running, you know, Winter Carnival for 1 week, but you also have out front running Lick It for another night, which is a huge school dance, which a lot of people love to attend. And I think what's fun about, you know, the clubs and such is, you know, clubs get their various spotlights. And while, yeah, I think I would say by size, yeah, the outing club's the biggest. I definitely wouldn't say it's like, you know, the #1 club or the one that, you know, engages everybody on campus, because there's just the reason that we have so many clubs is we want to ensure that all students can be engaged in various ways on campus. Sorry, that's a little bit of a workaround to the question, but that's what I would say about it.
Yeah, so adding on that as well, I think the other beauty about being in Maine, we have 4 seasons. And I've noticed that Bates, like things happen on campus kind of following the seasons and also following the academic calendar. So I gotta be honest, there are times when the outing club is famous. Then when winter hits, the outing club is not the biggest because it's winter, you know, like we are excited about like the clubs that we can do inside. So I would say the best way to think about, at least the best way I think about the clubs, in my opinion, because I'm also an ed sciences student, that when it's fall semester, I'm excited to go on field trips. When it's winter semester, you won't catch me there. So it depends with how you want to engage. And one thing you also notice, this is just a tip, like in college, there are times when it's towards like finals or towards something that's happening in your personal life, that there are times when you want a very energized club, then there are times you just want a chilled club like the Sunshine Society. So at least for me, it depends with like the weather and also like where I am in my academic time during, which is Bates related and also at an individual level.
Great. So we have another question here. This one's a bit shorter, but there's a question regarding affinity clubs and specifically what opportunities there are for South Asian students regarding affinity clubs.
Yeah, so I did post the link. If you could go check out the link on by category, so you could check out the link. Yeah, so there's the International Circle, there's the Asian American, Asia, I think. There's also there's a lot. Those are the two that are coming up in my mind. So check out by category. And like I mentioned earlier, you don't necessarily have to identify with a certain club to participate. So if you are interested in learning about, so for example, I'll speak about the Africana Club. Our mission statement on the website is we want to bring together space for people who are interested in having dialogue about the African continent. So we actually engage with the history department. So students taking classes on, there's a GEC code considering Africa. So students who are taking classes in the history department actually come and speak to us because they have an assignment. So the whole, at least for Africana, that is how we approach our clubs.
Great, thank you. Let's pull up another question here. Here's a question regarding arts and music. So the question is, I was also wondering if anyone would be able to speak on the visual arts plus music scene at Bates. Are there specific clubs or events that come to mind?
So I'm not super involved in the arts or music scene at Bates, but one thing that just comes to mind right away is the Village Club series. So it happens every Thursday night, and basically like Bates puts on a concert. Typically it would be in person, but this year they've all been virtual, and they bring in different like performers, like, you know, singers or bands or like spoken word performers from all over. And they've really had some amazing artists in the past. I love to go in person, and even this year virtually. It's just such an amazing event and really nice way to like end the academic week on Thursday. They usually serve chai and cookies as well, which is fun.
We also have a lot of different a cappella clubs on campus, a wide variety of them. I also can't speak that broad, or I can speak broadly on them, not that specifically, but that's another great option. And they hold a lot of in-person concerts usually. There has been more online stuff going on today, but one of the things that I always remember is that some of the a cappella groups used to participate and sing in the chapel. And one of the interesting facts about the chapel is one whole Bates class can fit inside the chapel. Again, now with COVID restrictions, definitely not. But in normal years, they can all fit in there, and there's like a nice concert that goes on near the holidays, especially. So that's definitely one way to get involved. And there are tryouts for that. So, you know, you are kind of, you know, like performing in front of people and seeing if you make it or not. But I know that there's other ways to get involved, even if you don't end up doing a cappella.
Yeah, so I'm part of like the Bates Gospel Layers a cappella group, and for us, it's open. Anyone who wants to get involved, and I like the Gospel Layers because it's also we during the non-COVID time. So unfortunately, we're not able to meet even virtually because our club, we partner with community members, and they've also become like family for us as well. So which is really good. And speaking to the event, so in October, there's Parents Weekend or Back to Bates Weekend. And one of the most popular event is people gather in the Grey Cage, and like all the a cappella groups actually sing. And it's really nice. Like I feel like that was one of my highlights for the Back to Bates Weekend.
Thank you. And Nicole just put in the chat the club directory again. So please, if you have any questions regarding the various a cappella groups we have on campus, other music and arts opportunities, that's a great place to look. It'll be able to give a lot more accurate of information than we are able to give today. So this question is a little bit more pertinent to our current times, but I'm happy to speak on it. So the question is, are there any unique ways you feel the clubs at Bates have responded to COVID-19 to keep students involved and able to try new things? I think this is a great question. If you all don't mind, I'll quickly just speak on it a bit since I've been working with COVID for most of the year. So, you know, being an outing club, we have to consider the fact that that can be a hot spot for COVID spread. So it's been actually a really productive time for us. I think what's been great, or maybe not great about it, but something we've been really able to harness when it comes to COVID-19 is really doing internal reflection on our club, thinking about who do we want this club, who do we want to be able to access the club, how do we want to enable the entire campus to access the club, how do we change our culture, how do we change ourselves to ensure that all students feel like they can access the outdoors and they can access the outing club, because realistically that has been something which has not been upheld in the Bates Outing Club. So for us, it's been a time where we've been able to reflect a lot on our leadership structure, the way that we run meetings, our presence that we have on campus, the harm that we've caused on campus, and how we make amends for that. And when it comes to, I guess, COVID-19 itself, additionally, it's really created a fun focus on local trips, which I personally really like. Those are my favorite types of trips, the ones where you go out maybe for an hour or 2 hours and you just get to do something fun and you get to see wherever you are in a new light. I love on-campus trips. I think they're a great opportunity to get students to see the quad in a different way, to have a fun time, you know, in Memorial Commons, for example. And it's been great also to be able to show off a lot of the local treasures we have in the Lewiston Auburn area, because students are then able to access those after they go on those outing club trips. So that's some of the ways that we've been responding to COVID. But I'd be curious to hear how other people's club experiences have been, since I'm sure a lot of students are thinking about this right now, especially as they're making those decisions about college.
I'd say that I've had a kind of a variety of sort of in-person meetings and also online meetings. So my peer health educators group, we meet both in person and online, depending on kind of the day. That is run by a Bates faculty member that's part of Res Life. So that's a little bit more serious, I would say, in the meeting. So it's not student led. I mean, it is in a way with the student groups, but it's kind of run by a faculty member. But like Sunshine Society, for example, like tonight, an Active Minds, which is another mental health group on campus. It's run by students. So, you know, we got the email today that our quarantine was extended until Sunday. And my club leader emailed us this morning saying how we're going to have a meeting and we're going to chat about First Year Friday, which is something that clubs are working on to involve first years. And then I got an email like 20 minutes later and she's like, actually, I've decided that we're not going to have a meeting. Please go to sign up for the vaccine if you're going to get one, like take some time for yourself. So I think when it's student run, but also faculty run, it's really kind of up to them how they want to run the group meeting, sorry. And I also think too, like, especially in the pandemic, like if anything, clubs have kind of mellowed out a little bit more. You know, you can meet online more, so that's more accessible. There's some students that when we meet in person, they want to meet online, and that's totally fine as well. So I'd say it's a little bit of both. I have some clubs that are all in person, some clubs that are not in person at all, but I still feel the sense of club that I always have, and the sense of community that I always get at club meetings, whether they're in person or not.
Yeah, and I think clubs have also been, I would say everybody has been, what's the word, innovative. Like clubs, like their online presence. For example, I saw this comment on the Bates, so that we have the Bates student newspaper on campus. And like, I'm just gonna rephrase. So as soon as an email goes out to the school, for some reason, Bates student would have already pasted 30 seconds later that breaking news. Like I get my news from Instagram. Like that's what I do now because that's what's working. So like I feel like clubs have become so like on top of their game. And because we are all, for example, right now, we are in campus quarantine. So that means most people are getting their news from like Instagram, from like all the social media. So I'd say clubs have been innovative about that. And in addition, so usually during the school year, during the winter semester, there are events that are put together by like Africana Club, by like International Club in person. But this year, everything went remote. For example, Africana Club, instead of putting together a performance where people come see, they're actually making a movie. So they are like recording parts. So like people are going to come and like dance and stuff, then they make it a movie. So I think that's cool. And like one thing that I've appreciated actually moving away from clubs and like everything from like this setup is like I actually recently joined this club called, I think it's the investment club. Like I never was able to go to investment club because like there was just too much happening in my life. But because I signed up, now I have all these videos that I can see on a Sunday morning. And like I get educated because they record their meetings. So I think that's something that clubs have done to like appreciate that people have different schedules, but also there are people who would want to still get involved by just getting the recording.
Great. And I think that's really an emphasis right now that a lot of clubs have had. Just to kind of echo your point, Nicole, I think the idea is we're not viewing it as oh, okay, COVID happened, so after COVID is done, we're just going to throw out all these accessibility initiatives, all these ways to increase accessibility from the club. I think what a lot of clubs are doing right now, which is great, is they're looking at this moment saying, okay, what has this moment made clear and how can we continue to have that be clear as we continue to develop and expand access to our clubs. So this is another great question, and I'm sure one that a lot of students want to know the answer to. And the question is, would you say clubs are the way people find friends if they aren't involved in athletics?
Yeah, I'm happy to start off. I think that clubs are a great way to find friends at Bates, but definitely not the only way. And especially in your first year, there's so many different opportunities to meet people in your grade, especially so like just off the top of my head, like you're gonna live in a first year center with like probably 20 other first year students. So and all from like different places, all with different interests. So that's a great way to meet a variety of people right away. And then during orientation, there are usually a lot of events that Bates puts on for students, and everyone is pretty eager to meet other people at that point. And then also classes. I've made a lot of friends through classes as well. I think that Bates students tend to be really friendly, and because of our collaborative academic environment, you'll probably end up having some group projects, get to know people in those small groups. So yeah, definitely one of the ways to meet friends, but not the only way.
Yeah, I always like to plug in orientation too. I was an orientation week leader this year at Bates, so we call ourselves Owls. So we did a lot of like both in-person and virtual events for students that were either taking the semester remotely or didn't feel comfortable, but also outside in-person events. So that was a great way to meet people. I met people, you know, playing field games on Garcelon Field or tie-dyeing with friends. And I still talk to some of those people I met literally the first day of Bates College, which is incredible. I also think we have an orientation trip called ASOP. And that's a great way to meet people. I, you know, was really nervous for it. I had never done a sleepover in high school. I mean, I've done sleepovers, but would prefer to sleep in my own bed. But the ASOP trip was a 3-night, 4-day trip. And, you know, you're supposed to leave your phone back and really get to know the people on your trip. And some of those people I still, again, keep in contact with today. One of my best guy friends I met on that trip. So I think there's a lot of ways like Sophie highlighted. I'd also say classes like Sophie did. Like, I think I've met a lot of friends with similar majors, you know, having the major, minor, the GEC, all those different sort of experiences and requirements. There's a lot of different ways to meet people. So I know it's definitely a fear that many of you guys have, is that you won't meet people, or you know, you don't know if you'll fit in, but I can promise you at Bates that you will find your way. And I know that is probably reassuring to hear.
Yeah, I also wanted to point out another way that people make friends on campus is so the summer before you join Bates, the residence life team will send you a list of like questions on like choosing roommates, not choosing roommates. They'll ask you questions like, what time do you go to bed? Things like that. Like, what time do you wake up? Do you want a lot of people and all this? Just be honest, like just be honest to save yourself. And they'll do a very good job with like pairing you up with someone. So once you're paired up with a roommate, you live on a floor with about 10 to 12 other students. You make up what's called a first year center, and you have what's called a junior advisor. So my sophomore year, I was a junior advisor, and my role was a primary resource guide in charge of facilitating events like movie nights, like volunteering together. Like so right now, most of those things have gone remote, and also like during orientation, we could meet outside, so that was good. So that's also another way to meet people, because these are people on your floor. You meet them when you're going to the bathroom. And because of right now what is happening with the public health protocols, we only have access to our dorms, and our dorms are alone. So most of the people we're interacting with are people in our dorms. So I feel like people have been able to branch out more and meet people. And another advantage of Bates, just to wrap up my point, is because we're a smaller community, when you take, I remember when I was at first year, I was shocked to see seniors in my class. And then the professor like randomizes you into groups. So now you have a senior friend. And when they are graduating, you actually stay behind because you want to see your former project partner, like they're graduating and you're excited about it. So I have attended all the graduations. I've visited I've actually visited Bates alums who are my seniors. So where I'm going with this is you don't necessarily have to have friends only in your grade. You can have friends across sports teams, across grades, across clubs, and across departments as well.
Awesome. So we have about 5 minutes more in the panel. So if anybody has any last questions, now would be the time to ask them. We will answer this one last question we have in our Q&A, and then we can answer as many questions as are left if anybody has any more. If not, of course, we can always just chat a little bit about what it's like to decide between colleges, but to not delay anymore, this is a pretty simple question, but I think an important one. What is the theater scene like at Bates?
So I'm like I go to watch the theater performances, and I personally think like it's really like it's, so we have Orlean, and we have Shaffer Theater, and we have another one. What's the third one? So students put together.
Yeah, we have the Black Box Theater is the third one.
The Black Box Theater, exactly. So students and professors put together plays, and you don't necessarily have to be a theater major. So what they do, they actually call out for auditions. So if you want to participate, so like recently they had an all first year show. So they actually had to call out other first years to come and audition. And I think it's a very accessible space, and like you can just get involved with them as well. So I personally, I like that was one of my events that I was able to attend my first year to my junior year. Yeah, and also the Bates Dance Club as well. So it's theater and dance department. They actually have an international renowned summer program. So you can check it out. It's called, I think, the Bates Summer Dance Festival, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So check it out as well.
Yeah, and something else I'll just quickly add to that, we have the Robinson Players on campus, which is a more club theater-based group. I think what's super fun about theater at Bates is that it's very student-driven. So you have options to act in plays which have been directed by professors, but the majority of our productions are student productions, whether it's a senior presenting their thesis, because production production majors in the theater department. I'm not going to get too much into it, but essentially, some people will make a set for their thesis. Other people will put on a show, and there's always options to present or to interact in those. There's plenty of theater opportunities on campus. I really encourage you to check out the theater major page, but also check out the Robinson Players for more details. And with that said, we are just about at time here. All our panelists will be putting in their emails into the chat. So if you have any further questions for us, you can ask them there. Additionally, on our admissions page, we have the Ask a Student page, which we can throw a link in for right now. And what's great about the Ask a Student page is it has a wide range of students, all in admissions, all with a wide range of interests. Who are happy to participate.